Welcome everybody to the World of Ability Podcast Network. My name is Emily Comer and a podcast engineer here. And I'm excited to bring you another episode of a very fun show, our World of Pets, all about our furry friends and being Animal House and so on. We do here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central. So to kick us off, I'm going to pass it over to Debbie to kick us off here.
Yes, thank you. I'm Debbie Hayes, and welcome to the World of Pets podcast. And we want our pets to feel safe with us. We want them to feel our unconditional love for them, just like they have unconditional love for us. We want them to live a long time, but we want that to be a good life. And David, my co-host there, and I feel that we found something that through use of a medicinal mushroom can facilitate that. But mostly the podcast is just to discover all things about pets. Sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, but we just explore. So tonight we have Dr. Paula on, and Dr. Paula is going to tell you about herself, but she does cremation by water. And so go ahead, Paula, and explain a little of what you do. And when you're ready for a photo, Emily has those on hand.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. That was really kind. I'm very excited to be here with you. I am doing this process at my funeral home. So I opened a pet funeral home in Marana just in the past week or so. Is like my soft opening. And I'm doing aquamation, which some people call cremation by water. There's no fire. It's the water version of cremation. And whenever I say that to people, they go, I don't understand. What do you mean? And so, I'm happy to describe that to you, and feel free to jump in anytime if you have questions. So basically what happens is a family will come and drop off their pet, or I will go and get them and I bring them into my facility. And it's really important to me that every family know that they are getting back their own pet's ashes, because that is a huge fear of mine that happened, years ago with my first dog and my first cat. This is a cat, by the way. This is not my hair. So I really, really want to make sure that people know with 100% certainty that when they use my facility, they're always going to get back their own pet. Because with aquamation, it's really interesting. There's just this big metal box. And so you wouldn't even know what it is if you stumbled upon it. It's a big stainless steel box.
Do you have a picture of that, or?
There's a picture. Absolutely. So Emily should have a picture of the machine with stairs. There's yellow stairs leading up to it because I'm really short. I'm 5 feet tall. So hopefully she'll put that up for you. Should I wait for her to do that or keep going?
You can keep going. Okay. How tall is it? How tall is the?
So so I'm 5 feet. I would say it's probably the top of it is almost eye level for me, I guess. And it's about 5 feet long. And my machine, there's several different machines. They all do the same thing, but they're built based on the amount of weight that you want to put in the machine. So I have what they call a PET 550, and that means that I can put about 400-ish pounds of animals in there. Now, I can also do, and it's not just 400 pounds piled into my machine, not like that. We do communal. A communal process is where you put your animals in with other animals, and they're kind of, mix and mingle like you do with cremation. But for mine, we can also do an individual. And that means that inside the machine, there's these big baskets, and each basket has a section that I call a cradle. And so there's multiple cradles within each basket. And so each animal gets to go in their own individual cradle if that's what you want. And so they go in the machine, and people are always worried, like, oh my goodness, am I going to get back ashes? And so you do get back powdered remains, but you don't get back ashes like you do from cremation. So with cremation, sometimes they're a little chunky or a little dark. With aquamation, none of the bone. So basically, after the process is done with water, so water kind of flushes over your pet's body with a product called lye. And so the pet basically, and this, it's hard to think about at first, but it's also hard to think about your animal being put into flames, right? So you basically see water, warm water is kind of going over your pet with the lye, and it dissolves their tissue. And so all you're left with is bone. And so much like in the regular fire cremation process, I then take those bones, I put them in a machine and turn them into the cremains that you would get back, like a cremation center would give you. But with mine, with Aquamation, you actually get back more of your pet's ashes. I call it powdered remains. You get back more of your pet because nothing has been burned up in the process. And so when I'm looking for an urn for a pet and it says it's good for 50-pound pet, it's good for 50 pounds of a pet that was actually cremated with fire. They're getting back more powdered remains with me. So mine don't fit in there. So I actually have to get bigger urns because there's more to give back to the owners. And they also get, they get the paw print, they get the fur clipping, they get all of that. But another thing that I offer as, kind of another kind of, I don't know, keepsake almost, is that I give them a small plant that is watered with the water from their aquamation process. And I see it as giving life to life. So the life of your pet is now sustaining the life of that plant. And I think it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful process. And, nothing against cremation. I cremated all of my animals until I learned about aquamation. And so, cremation is still kind of the standard. But I think when people learn about aquamation and this gentle, warm water process, they tend to really like it. And once you think about it and you kind of take it in, it can be really beautiful. And so my tagline for my business is a gentler journey to the bridge, because I see it that way. It really is a gentle process.
So, can you describe, because I know when I met you, that when you were talking about it at the meeting that we went to, that you had a description for for the process of the water.
Yeah.
So I just wondered if you could share that.
Absolutely. So before I ever put animals in my machine, of course, I want to make sure it works, right? And so I did an empty run. And so I literally just put the baskets in there and ran the water. I wanted to see for myself what the machine does. And so during the process, it fills all the way up with water. And when, it gets up to the temperature, and then the mixer starts. And basically, it's just a small rotation. And to me, it looked like a bubbling brook on the inside. It was so peaceful and so nice. There's no noise. I know when you put something into like a cremation, there's noise. And there's no noise. It's just water. You hear the water trickle into the machine. It feels like a bubbling brook in there. And it feels good, like emotionally, it just feels good to see that and know that that's how your pet is going to heaven.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. So David, I know you had some questions.
Well, I actually, I looked it up. Are you having legal issues with this process? Because I worked in water and wastewater, and so if you're flushing lye back into the system, that needs to come out through what do they call that? Reverse osmosis and all that. Most major cities use that, so I'm sure that that's not that big of an issue. But I also saw, because of that, that there are other religions that absolutely refuse to do any kind of cremation. So are you seeing a specific genre of people come through that are really open to this, and any people that come through and they're like, oh, we can't do that?
Yeah, so I haven't really had any legal issues. Let's knock on wood right now. I did go through, obviously, a permitting process, and industrial wastewater is one of the permits that I had to get. And I do periodically test. So the outcome, the water effluent is what they call it. So the stuff that's coming out on the other end, it's actually super nutrient dense. And there are some aquamation facilities in Southern California in particular that are actually selling their water to people who grow things. So I know you don't want to put this on. So I used to be the food safety extension specialist for the state of Arizona. So I know you don't want to put this on food. It is 100% pathogen free, but the thought of putting this on food, nobody loves that idea. So they can put it on other things though that we're not going to eat and consume, right? So cotton, hay for our animals, things like that. And because it's so nutrient dense, it's actually really good. It grows things amazingly. And the beauty of that is that, so I have a huge tank at my facility where I tank this water, and I can change the pH to whatever a grower needs. And so I'm able to do that on site. Yeah. So it's actually really beautiful. So I don't waste a drop of this water here in the desert.
Yeah, that's
And
fantastic. And getting to know that you actually are inducing the pH to an appropriate level, that's super important these days.
yeah, absolutely. Debbie, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. So so then you adjust the pH. I mean, so the pH that it's at doesn't affect the process at all. Is that correct?
Correct. It's just regular city water that comes into my machine as is. I did install a water softener. That's an option. It makes the process a little easier. But yeah, it's just the regular water comes on in, the lye does its duty, and it's actually all used up. And so most aquamators discharge to the sewer, and they just put it straight out. And the only requirement for this water going into the sewer is that it be 140 degrees or less. You just have to make sure you're not burning up the pipes and doing crazy things. And so I actually have two pipes. I have one that goes to the sewer in case I don't have a buyer for my water. And the other that goes to this 1,100 gallon tank. And that tank has a computer of its own. And so, I described it as this big stainless steel box. It has a super fancy computer that goes with it and a lot of electronics. And I'm tied into the mothership of the company that actually built it. So if something goes wrong, they don't have to come out here. They're from Indiana. I can just call them or text them. They can log into my computer. They can see what went wrong, tell me what to do to fix it. There's no downtime. Everything gets fixed. And then my tank has its own computer, and it tells me, I can see how full the tank is, but it literally tells me how full the tank is, what the pH is, what the temperature is. It's very advanced, all of it. So it's not just, I've thrown this machine in and hooked up a hose and a tank. It's actually pretty complicated.
Okay. So I actually put a little note that, on Nextdoor, don't miss it tonight. I was hoping we would usually we have viewers that view after the fact. And I was hoping we'd have some live that could ask questions, but nobody's asked any questions yet. But I made a comment on there that I thought it was probably only for pets.
It is
Aqua, how do you say it?
Aquamation.
Aquamation. So, but but somebody commented that I knew you said you used two different chemicals, but somebody commented on one of the chemicals specifically that it is approved to be used for humans.
Correct. It is. And so there's actually a lot of aquamators already in the country. I think it's legal here in Arizona. You can get aquamated. Desmond Tutu famously got aquamated a while back. And it is a different machine. The process is the same, but the machine is different. It's like mine is like a rectangle, and the human one is more like this long cylinder tube. And so, yeah, you can aquamate a person. Yeah. And so I do use two different chemicals, but when I am aquamating and I'm going to actually put the water in the tank and I know that they're going to use it on plants, one of the chemicals contains sodium. I don't use that if it's going to go into the tank because that would be bad for plants. And so I specifically, if I'm tanking, only use the potassium. So yeah, so it's definitely different. And I know, David, you also asked me like what kind of person kind of likes it, doesn't like it. So it's really interesting. I think I've only had every single person I tell this to, they go, huh? And they look a little confused and a little concerned. I explain it and they're good with it. I have met one person who's actually a good friend of mine who to this day is like, no, I'm not going to use that. There's not a chance. It grosses me out. I don't want to think about it. But, to me, when I learned about it, I just thought, holy moly, I'm not going to send my animal into fire anymore when I have an option of a bubbling brook.
Right.
And so speaking of the fire, using that particular process, something that I found was that it's actually more eco-friendly. It uses less energy.
Correct.
Like you mentioned already, that it's recyclable. It takes, you're not expending the energy of the fans before and after, all kinds of stuff. So would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, aquamation definitely, in the technical term, I will tell you for aquamation, it's alkaline hydrolysis. So, I think aquamation is like a trademark term or something from the company that is building the machine. So, but I call it aquamation. And yeah, so it does use a lot less energy than cremation, and it also doesn't output any toxins. Now, I know that the crematories have really stepped up their game and they're not emitting as many toxins. They don't have as much environmental impact as they used to, but it still is, it's a fire burning process, and so there are going to be emissions. You still have to get that out of the system. And with mine, really all I have is a pipe that extends up through the roof in case there's any kind of smell. But I have to tell you, I'm a vegetarian. I was really worried that there was going to be a significant smell. I was really worried. And it's not. You open it up and yeah, there's a little smell, but it's not like, a cooler of dead bodies or anything. It's nothing creepy and weird like that. So I just have one pipe going up through the roof in case of smell. But other than that, there's nothing. And so the fact that it uses less energy, the water, some people have expressed concern about the amount of water that's being used, but you calculate it out and you're really only using as much water as you would use to give your dog a bath. So for me, I feel like it's their last bath. And then if I can then sell that water, right now I'm giving it away. Anybody who wants to try it can come and get water from me. And I'm happy to give it away so that they can see how well it works. Even if it's like a home gardener and they want to try it themselves, I'll give them a gallon. Absolutely. But yeah, I really love that it is more eco-friendly, and everything about my particular business, I'm trying to really make eco-friendly. So everything that I send home with people, the urns or scatter tubes, are all either biodegradable or sustainably harvested materials. So that's really important to me. Even the bag it goes home in, it's a brown paper bag made from recycled paper. And some people were like, oh, that's not really pretty enough. Well, I don't care about pretty. I'm trying to save the planet. Right. And so, once I put a little sticker with a logo, it's going to be pretty. It'll be fine. But I think for my customers, I think that that's kind of one of the things that attracts them to this, is that it is low energy, eco-friendly. And plus, I feel like, I hope they know that they can trust me, because I 100% am making sure that they're getting back their own animal. I have a body tracking system. So it's not just me going, oh yeah, there's Spot making his way through the process. I actually have a body tracking system, and it has a scanner. And so I will scan the location. Every animal gets a scanner ID and a metal chip, because the metal is not going to degrade in the machine. So they all get a metal ID number, and they get body scanned in every location they go to. So when I receive them, they get scanned. They go into the cooler, they get scanned. They go into the machine, they get scanned. So I know at all times where every single body is, because there's also a location within each of those. So for example, in my drying room, when the bones come out of the machine, I put them in my drying room. It's literally a heater and a bathroom fan and bakery racks. And I figured if the business goes south, I'm going to become a baker, and I've already got my racks, right? So I've got it. And listen, you got to have a backup plan. So I've got my drying room. I got the bones in there. They're, doing their thing. They're getting all nice and dry, but every single shelf is numbered and lettered. So at any moment, somebody could call me and be like, hey, where's my dog Spot? I'll be like, look in the computer. Hey, he's on shelf 1A3 or something, and I can find him. I know exactly where they are. And I think that's really important to people. I know it's important to me. And I have been on the customer side of having deceased pets because of my animal rescue for a really long time. So I feel like, for the most part, I know what customers would want, or I'm in the ballpark. And that's what I want to offer them. I want to offer them that comfort of knowing that they 100% are getting their animal back, and more of it.
Yeah, this is a
So
fascinating conversation, because I've wondered about that when I first heard about it. I'm like, because I first heard about it not for pets but for people. I'm like,
Okay.
wait a minute, what is, what all is involved in that? And I looked a little bit into it, but not much. So when Debbie mentioned that we were going to interview you, I was super stoked. I'm like, yes, somebody in the business is
Yes.
going to explain this in layman's terms for everybody that I can understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always happy to answer questions. One of the things that's also really important to me is full transparency. So one of the first families that came to me with their pet came in, and the husband couldn't wrap his head around it. The wife was like 100%, we're doing this. And the husband was like, I just don't get it. And I was like, come to the back. I'm not going to show you any deceased pets, but I'm going to show you the machine, and I'll just show you kind of how this works. And by the time we walked back out, he's like, I'm in. I'm done. And I want to have that transparency. There's no secrets about what happens behind that door. And the only reason the door is closed is because I don't want to traumatize anyone by having to see deceased pets. That's a really hard thing to do. I mean, I couldn't be near a deceased animal, not even a pet. If there was a dead squirrel on the road, I would cry. So I couldn't even think about an animal being dead. And now look at me, I'm a pet mortician. But I get it. And I get that it's a hard topic for people. And so that's literally the only reason I have a door to the back part of my facility, is because I don't want people to have to see that. But if they want to come and see the process, I welcome them to do that.
So what about cost, like compared to a normal? Well, I mean, I guess you have taking the pet into the vet, or burying the pet in the backyard, which I guess doesn't cost very much at all, or or cremation, or the vet coming to the house for the euthanasia. That would be more. Well, that would be more when they die. Not you're dealing with them after they're already deceased.
Exactly. So I get them after they're deceased. I actually am trained in euthanasia. I've euthanized lots of animals as a technician, but because there isn't a veterinarian on my property, we're not allowed to do the actual euthanasia. It has to be done by a veterinarian in the state of Arizona. So if someone brings their pet to the vet, or they have it done at home, then I can swoop in and I can pick them up after that. We can make arrangements ahead of time. Some people know that they're basically going to schedule it for Thursday or something. And so, yeah, I can absolutely go and pick them up. Or if they're more comfortable bringing them to me, they're absolutely welcome to do that. And so, yeah, all of that basic euthanasia cost is not related to me. But my actual costs are very on par with the crematories. So I don't want to, obviously, I don't want to be undercharging and underselling them, but I'm also not trying to make a killing at this, right? So I hate to even use that term, but that's not what it's about, right? Like, yes, I need to make a living, but for me, it's really about the pets and about the comfort of the humans. And so I could absolutely raise my prices super high and be like eco-friendly and, stand on that soapbox and make it super expensive so that only wealthy people who are eco-conscious could afford it. And that just doesn't make sense to me. I think everybody should be able to do it. And so even with my communal aquamation, most places, if you do a communal, you are not getting a footprint, you're not getting ashes, you're not getting anything. So basically what I've committed to is that if someone wants to do a communal aquamation, I've had several want to do that. They basically said, I don't want my pet to be in there alone. They like other animals. And I was like, great. So I actually put someone's dog in with my dog, and they went off to the bridge together. And I tell them, I will save you some ashes from that, or powdered remains from that communal aquamation. I make myself a note, I put it in a little vial for them, and they can have that. And just because they can't afford to or don't want to do a higher priced option, I just feel like that shouldn't mean that they get nothing. They just goodbye to your pet and that's the end of it. That's so sad to me. So I just want to be able to do that for them.
It's wonderful. I love your heart, and I love the spirit that you have behind what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I did not grow up with money, and I certainly didn't have a lot of money when I had my first pets. I lived in Brooklyn, New York, in a studio apartment with my 2 cats, my 2 dogs, and my bird. And, I could barely afford to get by just out of college. But you know what? My dogs ate well. And I know that people, money doesn't equal love. And I think that people do everything they can for their pets. And when that time comes at the end, I just feel like it's so unfair to have them not have anything. I used to work at the municipal shelter here, and people would come in with their deceased pets, just bawling. They didn't even know what to do with their pets, and they couldn't afford to do anything. Sometimes there would be, people experiencing homelessness that would bring their deceased pet, and they have nothing but that pet. And how can we take that body and just walk away and say, that's all you get. You just have to leave your pet here. So I just feel like we can do something, right, to give people some sort of memory, especially when that's all they have. Tucson has a lot of older people in our community. It's an amazing place to retire. And some people, all they have is their dog or their cat. And I don't want them to feel like they can have nothing after they turn that animal over. So I'm just, trying to work that out. And I want to be able to even create a fund so people could actually contribute to that. So people who maybe can't afford to do this can get that paw print in addition to the little bit of ash that I'm giving them.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very good idea. So the communal, so the difference is that with the communal, you would put more than one pet in the same basket. Is that what determines the communal?
Exactly. Yeah. So each basket has many sections in it, and there's stainless steel dividers. So I can have, 7 animals up top if I want to, completely separate, or like with that wonderful family who's like, our dog loves other dogs. We don't want her to be alone. And they had a very big dog, and I had a big German Shepherd, and I put them together, and they took up a whole basket together by themselves. So we can do it any way they want. And I can do pocket pets. So I've been practicing because my cats tend to take a couple of things they probably shouldn't from the yard. So I have done mice, lizards, rats, little birds. I've done all kinds of things because I wanted to make sure that if somebody had a pet gerbil that they really loved, I want to make sure that I get back that little tiny bit of ashes for them. And so I put them in a pantyhose stocking, because that's breathable. Stick it in a pantyhose.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
And I can put it in with another animal even. So I actually did that, and I put it in with one of my cats. So I put them together, and all the bones stay right there in the pantyhose. I cut it open, put it on the drying rack, and I can get ashes of a little tiny parakeet, a mouse, anything. I even did a rattlesnake.
Oh,
That's great.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, and that definitely goes to your heart, because it's got to be difficult to work with those smaller animals. Not so much from an emotional standpoint, but from a logistical standpoint, I would think.
Yes, those tiny little bones. I'm in there with a tweezer, just like trying to get them all, because especially like a little kid's gerbil, I want to get every little bone out of there and make sure they have it. So yeah, it really is. It's an interesting process. And I know that I take way too much time. I'll get better at it, but I take a lot of time, because when the bones are there at the end, I hand pick up the big bones and I put them onto the tray for the drying room. And the thing is, the bones aren't solid when they come out. So going through this process, the bones soften. So if you touch it the wrong way, it's just going to kind of crumble, which is fine, because ultimately you're going to crumble them. But I feel some level of disrespect almost when a bone crumbles. And so I'm in there like super delicate, trying to pick up somebody's leg and put it on the drying rack. It's ridiculous. And so I'm going to get faster at it. But right now I'm still sensitive about it. And I really just want to be super respectful of every part of them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So let's change and talk about living pets for a while. So you can tell us about the other part of what you do.
Yeah. So the other part of what I do, which is what led into this whole pet mortician thing, right? So in 2010, my husband at the time and I started a nonprofit called Old Souls Animal Rescue and Retirement Home. And we only take in geriatric special needs and hospice animals. And so we started out with just dogs and cats. We were in Las Vegas in 2010. I was working with desert tortoises. Sorry, she's sick. So we started with that. And we ended up moving up to Davis, California. I was doing a postdoc up at UC Davis. And so we took the whole rescue with us, the dogs, the cats, the tortoises, all the things. And then ended up moving to Yuma, Arizona. And the rescue just exploded there. The Yuma community was amazing. But before you knew it, we had pigs and goats and a cow and just all of these animals. And so it was really crazy. And we were taking in, 18, 20 geriatric dogs from the shelter there. And it was beautiful. And I loved it so much. I love being the last person to take care of an animal before they leave the earth. I really do. I think it's so beautiful. And people will say to me, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, you just do it. You do it because is your heart going to break? A million times. But the joy and the happiness you have from taking care of that animal for the last chapter of its life, I can't even explain to you in words what that feels like. And, some of them you become so bonded to. If I have an animal in my home, it could be there for 3 hours. If it dies, I'm devastated. This kitten is everywhere. And so I really, when I take care of a hospice animal and I'm giving them fluids every day and changing wound bandages and doing all of these things, you really, really bond to them. And they have to be with me when they go. So we always at Old Souls do euthanasia at home. We always have a mobile vet come to the house. I don't care how much it costs, to be honest with you. I want those animals here with me. I want them to be around the other animals that love them and can be there with them during that really important time. And then I actually, when they do get euthanized, I keep them here overnight so that everybody can say goodbye in their own way. And so that volunteers can say goodbye, and anybody who wants to can say goodbye to these animals, and they know they were loved. If it was for a week, they know they were loved, and that's all I care about. So I will go to Pima Animal Care Center and I will take the oldest, crunchiest animals you can find. Pack calls them Paula animals, Paula dogs, and they'll let me know when they get there. And and I take them into Old Souls and I just take as good a care as I can. And their veterinary team over at Pack is amazing. They try to help every animal that they can. It's not like some of the other shelters in the country. So they really do try to help every animal in every way they can. And one of those ways is sending them to Old Souls. And so, sometimes I only have them for a few days or a few weeks, but I love them for every minute. And the volunteers are amazing. We love having volunteers here. They do everything from filling up the pig lagoons. We have 6 pigs now, to literally we have some older folks who can't really walk around very well, and they'll sit and they'll cuddle cats, or they'll cuddle the 17-year-old Chihuahua. And it's a beautiful thing. And I love that. And we have, I've planted myself here in Tucson permanently. I am also an adjunct professor at University of Arizona. I'm very proud of that. I was actually a professor at U of A when I was in Yuma. So I was just stationed there. Yeah. Okay. So I have a long history with University of Arizona. Very lucky to work at PAC for 2.5 years before I took on this endeavor of having Choya Afterlife, the funeral home. So I just think it's, now I feel like things are kind of complete. I've got that full circle of being able to take animals from the shelter, care for them in their last chapter of life, do the best I can for them. And then I have veterinarians I work with who can do the euthanasia, and I go right over to my funeral home. And so it just feels so beautiful and complete to me.
I have a question. Do you want to promote some of the vets that you work with specifically?
I will tell you that I have some pretty amazing vets. Some of the ones that have been most generous with me, Continental Ranch always gets me in. And when I first got here and nobody knew who Old Souls was, I mean, we had a few followers because we had been in Yuma. So we had some people that knew us, but the vets didn't know us here. And so we did some vet shopping, of course. And all the vets are great, honestly. Like, there's great vets here in Tucson. But Continental Ranch has always made a huge effort to get Old Souls animals in, because, we have crises. Everyone has a crisis from time to time, but some of our animals, they need to come in when it's Monday morning, and they will figure out how to get us in. So Dr. Brown, Dr. Lubold, they're wonderful. And then one of our favorite euthanasia vets, there's a few, but one of our most recent favorites is a woman named Dr. Amy, and the name of her practice escapes me, but she is so kind and gentle. And she totally understood that I wanted all the other animals to be around during the euthanasia. And her name is spelled Aimee, Dr. Amy. And she was just amazing. Dr. Carla came over and helped us with our goat. One of our goats passed away recently. And that was, let me tell you about the aquamation, if you want to get into that. That was crazy, aquamating a goat. But so Dr. Carlo was wonderful with livestock. So we've been very fortunate to have met some really wonderful vets here.
Oh, that's great. That's really good. So those of you in the Tucson area who are listening or who listen after, make sure that you make note of the fact that Dr. Paula uses volunteers.
Yes.
So you can be in touch with her and let her know that you are willing to come up and hold an animal in your lap or whatever needs to be done there.
Yeah, poop patrol. We always need poop patrol. That's a thing.
Oh. I don't know if that's really the best thing to bring up to when you're trying to encourage volunteers, Paula.
No, but you know what? It works with
Well, tell them when they get there. By the way, you're going to go on poop patrol today, but you know who it works with? Like the 8 to 12-year-olds. You can get them really excited because I do a whole lesson on poop because tortoise poop is very specific and it looks different from the pig poop. So the tortoises, the pigs, and the dogs all share a yard. And so we never leave them alone together. They are never alone together. So I want to warn people, never leave your dogs alone with your tortoises and your pigs. I don't care how long they've known each other. But they do get supervision in the same yard together and their poop is so different and it's really cool. And little kids are into it. So poop patrol is a thing.
All right. I'll take your word for that one.
yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cow poop is a whole other thing. The cows. I got 2 cows here, a steer and a heifer. So anybody who's into FFA, 4-H, and they need to practice taking care of pigs, goats, cows, come on over.
Okay. Well, you know what? I've got somebody to. Unfortunately, she lives in Vail, but she probably has contacts all around Tucson because she's been in 4-H. You know, some kind of a contact with 4-H for a long time. So
that
might work.
Yeah, we also have chickens. We have turkeys in a foster home right now. We take a lot of the livestock hoarding cases that come into the county. There's a lot of hoarding in Pima County of animals. So we take a lot of the livestock. Hooves and Horns takes them. D-Bar S Rescue. So there's a few of us rescues that can take livestock. And so almost my entire goat herd is from a hoarding situation, and they have an infection called mycoplasma. So normally they would euthanize the entire herd. And so when they found out that I already have a mycoplasma positive goat and I would take all 12 of the goats, the veterinary team at PAC was so happy that they didn't have to euthanize any goats. So they all came here. So yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. And just FYI, just one more push for PAC, even though I don't work there anymore, they are getting a 100 plus large dog impound over the next few days. So anybody that can help by fostering or adopting a large dog would be amazing help to them. They're already way over the number of animals they can comfortably take care of.
Yeah. David, did you have other questions as we close out here?
Man, that's just amazing. You must have nice plot of land and lots of space to work with, and you've got the best heart. Definitely on both ends of the spectrum for, just taking over the senior animals, and that's awesome. You've been a wonderful guest.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. We do have beautiful land out here. I have to say, living in Tucson is like living in a postcard. It is the most beautiful place on earth. Anybody can challenge me on that. I love it here.
That's great. Well, Dr. Paula, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great, been fun. Emily, you going to close us out? Emily said she could not find the pictures, by the way. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where the disconnect was, but some other time I'm sure we'll want you to be on again, and that time we'll work on the pictures a little bit ahead of time.
Absolutely. I would love to come back and chat with you again.
But yeah, so again, thank you, Dr. Paula, and everybody for coming on and tuning in. Again, we're here every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 Central. I'd love to have everybody come on as a guest, so if you're interested, please connect with us. So I guess until next week. Debbie, do you have something? Okay, maybe not. So I guess until next week, have a safe and productive weekend. Stay happy.
Blessings, everybody. Thank you so much.